Hi guys, and welcome back. So I've bought what I believe to be the cheapest S3. It was only £3,090 and mechanically it's pretty much perfect. And when I say the cheapest S3, I mean one that's not been in an accident, that's running and driving okay, that's only got some minor issues on it that we need to fix before we can actually flip this car over and pretty much double our money out of it. You could probably get a categorised car for a little bit less, but this is running and driving and I shouldn't have to do too much to this before I can flip it over and make some decent money on it. But of course, being one of the cars that I've bought, it's got a few little teething issues that we're going to have to sort out to get this thing up to a half decent standard. I mean, it's not going to be perfect, but I'm really happy. For the price that I've paid then, I think I've got myself an absolute bargain, and it's a facelift one with 140,000 miles on it, and it's got a full service history with it. 3-door, manual gearbox, heated seats. Bearing in mind, these cars usually fetch double what I paid for it. And the things that we've got to sort out on it are only like little teething issues, and it's nothing major. Anyway, I think I've got myself an absolute bargain with this car. Let me know what you think down below. So what do we really need to fix on this car? On the face of it, it looks like it's got quite a few stone chips on here. I'm not really too sure if you can see it very well, but there's quite a few stone chips, and being a black car, it stands out like a sore thumb. As well, on the bonnet, it's quite faded here, but we should be able to mop this car up, polish it, and we can get that back. One of the best things about this car then, it's got PS4 tyres on it all around, which in my opinion means this car's been pretty well kept. We've got a little bit of surface rust here, but that's not really anything major in my opinion. We can put some paint on there, touch it up, and it'll look fine. Got some lovely graphite grey wheels on it as well. Yellow brake calipers, they've been painted. Down the side of it then, it's actually a pretty clean car. Of course, some wind deflectors on it, and another nice feature, it's got a sunroof. I think not many of these come with sunroofs as well, so it's kind of nice to have that. On the rear of the car as well then, it's probably had a pair of rear calipers on it, because imagine whoever painted these brakes yellow, they wouldn't have just left the rear ones unpainted, and they look pretty new as well. Around the rear then, it looks like it might have seen a little bit of drama here, but that's nothing really too major, because there's a little bit of paint here that's flaked off, but we're going to sort that out and make that look all right. It's also had a typical D-badge on the rear. Down here as well, the exhaust on the car, I'm fairly sure that this is a standard exhaust on the car. I don't think it's been changed. But on a whole, looking at this car now, it looks fairly clean, and there shouldn't be too much we actually have to do for it. On the inside then, it's a bit of a tatty car, I think. Someone's messed around with it and put this crap aftermarket unit in. It doesn't even mean the speaker's working properly. So we're going to get this out of here and put the standard unit back in the car. Another weird thing that I've noticed is down here, it's not got a Bose speaker patch on it. And if I show you the other side, down here, this side's got a Bose speaker. So I'm not really sure if this car's meant to have Bose speakers from factory or the other ones. Anyway, I'm going to look into that, and I'm going to replace whichever speaker grill is incorrect. So then, I shouldn't really need to do much to this car to get up to half decent standard to turn over for a profit. What I'm hoping to do then is I'm going to hope to sell this car for around 6 grand. Anyway then, let me pop the bonnet and show you what's going on under there, because I don't fully know what's going on under there myself. As far as I can tell, under here then, this car is absolutely filthy. Someone's of course put an induction kit on it, as everyone seems to do on their car these days. This looks like it needs a clip on there, but it's not really a worry. And it looks like it's had a sub or amp in it at some point. It's got some ridiculously oversized battery cable in it, which I'll take out of it. As well as that, it looks like down here, it's had a new alternator fairly recently, which is another good thing about the car. But we're going to service this as well before we put it up for sale, so it's nice and fresh for the new owner. So that's going to be the oil filter, fuel filter. We don't need the air filter on the car. And then the spark plugs on it. It's also recently had new coil packs on the car. I've looked through the history and that's all been done, which is great. But there is one bad thing mechanically, in my opinion, that we actually need to sort out. The clutch pedal on the car is a little bit dodgy and it does get stuck sometimes. So what I'm going to try and do is fix it. And that is down here, that the clutch slave is a little bit sticky. What I'm going to try and do then is undo that down there and try and bleed it off. And, you know, fingers crossed, that should solve the issues on it. I think this car's been mapped as well, because it is pretty quick in my opinion. I think standard these are about 220, 260. This feels like it is a little bit more than that. Anyway, we're going to go on the drive and I'll show you what I mean. So regardless of all small things that are wrong with this car, I still feel like I've got myself an absolute steal for it, and we should pretty much be able to double our money. Anyway then, let's go on a drive in the S3 and I'll show you what I mean about the clutch on it. It's a bit sticky, it's a bit difficult, but it does go into gear. In the bite point, sometimes you can't predict where it's going to be. Anyway, let's go. I'm sure this thing's been mapped as well. I think they're meant to be 200 brakes, 220 standard, 260, but this feels quicker. I love these cars. I don't know what it is about them, but they're so much fun to drive. Like, it's a Golf GTI on steroids, because it's got 4-wheel drive and it's got quattro in it. But the thing that I've never fully understood is that, for example, they have the Golf R32 S3 with, let's say, just a standard, you know, 3.6 V6 that the R32's got in it. Doesn't make any sense to me. But I feel like the four-wheel drive combined with, you know, 2 litres either side, it's brilliant. I really like my rear-wheel drive cars, but if I was to have a hot hatch and it wasn't rear-wheel drive, it'd have to be one of these. I'm fully convinced this thing's been mapped. Like, I'd say it's got to be running like at least 300, at least. I'm not too sure though if there's any difference in a facelift and a pre-facelift in terms of power, but this thing, it feels a lot quicker than the last one that I had. For me, this is so much car for the money, and they feel so complete to drive, and it's like there's an unbelievable amount of grip. Don't know what that was, but the clutch now, you can feel it's changed slightly, so the bite point will like vary where it is, which is a bit annoying, but anyway then, let's get this car back to mine, try and fix it and turn this thing over for a profit. Right then, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this awful aftermarket head unit. What I'm going to try and do then is put the factory head unit back in the car. Hopefully someone hasn't messed around with the wiring inside of there too much. So first of all then, this thing is absolutely battered. If I pull this off, it should come off fairly easily. Now we've got that off, what I'm going to try and do is get a couple of kitchen knives to go down each side of here, and we should hopefully be able to pull this out. And I think we should just be able to unbolt this fascia that we've got on here with a few Torx bolts by the look of it. That bad it falls off. Anyway, hopefully we can take this off fairly easily and put the factory head unit in without too much drama. You may think it's a very questionable thing to do, but all I can say is that every time this seems to work for me. Now then, we've got this absolute array of connections that we need to unplug, but it looks like it's fairly in touch, thankfully. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to unplug all of this stuff for this aftermarket head unit, and it should be easy. We should be able to just unplug this loom here, unplug the adapter for the radio, and then we can plug the old one back in. You're probably wondering then, where did I get this car from? So I bought this car from BCA, online, unseen. Unfortunately, you never know what you're going to get. We've got the worst of it out of the way now. All I need to do then is remove this old fascia for it. I'm going to cut this off and check it's not alive and put some tape over it to cover it up. Apart from that, I've disconnected these RCA cables here, and I'll just pull them back through the car and get rid of them. Now we've got that out then, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to pull this back through the car, trace it back and see where it actually goes. Probably the boot. I'm pretty sure as well, tracing this back, it's going to lead somewhere under here and along all the way to the boot. I'm pretty sure as well, I'm going to take all this stuff off down here quickly to try and get to it. And would you look at that? Now I've got this off, I've got this absolute monstrosity of a battery cable. That's also going to come out as well, because that looks really tatty. Should pull straight through. There we go. This probably leads through to the engine bay, so I'll cut this off and pull it out the other end. As you can also see, it's hanging out in the back and that looks absolutely dreadful. Let's go and get that battery cable from beneath the bonnet. There we go. Part of that done. Now all we need to do is pull it out in the boot. Also going to quickly pull this up and then we should be able to pull it through. There we go then, that's all out of the way. All we need to do is put everything down here back together, and then we can put the factory unit back in the car. Replacement head unit then, I managed to source that for only £25. Okay then, so we've got the radio turned on now. All we need to do is get the radio code out of it, and we can get it off this digit down the side. For now though, I'm going to leave this because I can't actually input the radio code. It's like stuck in a safe mode. So in a couple of hours, it'll probably go away is what I'm hoping. And we can try and sort the clutch on the car out. Right then, so under here, there's a bleed nipple, which we're going to try and undo to bleed the clutch. Hopefully, it's just a bit of air in there. I'm going to try and pressure bleed it here by putting some pressure into the brake fluid reservoir. And hopefully that should force any air out. If not, we're going to have to take the gearbox off. What I'm going to be using then basically is this here, which is like an easy bleed sort of system which runs off air pressure. The air pressure it's using is basically off a spare wheel, and it pressurizes all the fluid into here and then down into the brake reservoir itself, which forces it down here into the clutch slave. I should be able to just crack that nipple off at the end and it should let any unwanted air out. To me, that feels a lot better. It's not soft now, it's nice and stiff, and it's coming back all the way consistently. Can't complain about that, nice and easy fix, thank God. I don't think it was properly bled whenever the clutch and flywheel was done on the car. Thankfully then, the clutch was actually a really easy fix, and I don't have to take the gearbox off. Anyway, let's crack on and service the car now. Right, now I've done that, it's time to do the fuel filter. The fuel filter then is tucked away just under here, behind the driver's side seat. So then all I need to do to remove the fuel filter is basically undo the pipes, which are on little clips which you press in and it pops straight off. Unfortunately, as you can see as well, whoever worked on this last has either broken the bracket off it, so I've had to cable tie it back together. You know what I say, if you can't fix it with cable ties, you can't fix it at all. Right then, now I've got that sorted out, it's time to do spark plugs. So even though there were no signs of misfire, when I removed the plugs out of this car, I noticed that one of them had a huge crack down it, as you can see, so they definitely needed to be changed. After I've done the fuel filter and the spark plugs on the car, I've moved on to, of course, doing the oil and the filter on the car. So the cost of everything then, it was $38.59 for the oil, $7.18 for the oil filter, $54.56 for 4 spark plugs, and £6.30 for the actual fuel filter itself. That brings me to a grand total of £106.64. Now then, as for the oil that I'm using 5W30 oil, as that's what's meant to be recommended for this engine. Right then, so I've just managed to finish servicing it in time because it's absolutely chucking it down now. What I'm going to do now then is I'm going to put the radio code in. What we've got to do now then is put the code into the radio, and to go through all of these, we, for example, need to tap through these, as you can see, and it will put the radio code in. The code we've got to put in then is 1452. So I'm going to enter it now, and I'm kind of hoping it's going to work. Oh, maybe a bit of luck. Let's try the radio. Well, it seems to be working on the old classic FM. Right then, thankfully, the radio itself is all working now. Anyway, this car's got its MOT tomorrow, so what I'm going to do is, in the morning, I'm going to take it for its MOT, leave it there, and then hopefully it should pass. If it doesn't, and it's got a few little teething issues, of course we're going to sort them out. If it's all okay, then all we need to do is sort the bodywork on this car out and give it a nice and deep and thorough clean. Anyway, fingers crossed, tomorrow this car's going to pass its MOT, and we're back. So good news then, the car's passed its MOT with only a couple of minor advisories that I'm not really going to look into. I'll show you what they are now anyway. As you can see then, it's passed its MOT with only a couple of minor advisories that I'm not really too concerned about, and I'm not even going to think about right now. So that's all good now. What we're going to do is we're going to start cleaning the car and making this thing look absolutely immaculate. It probably doesn't look too bad on there, but right now the bodywork on this thing is absolutely awful. So then I start off by putting a pre-wash on the car to try and remove the worst of the dirt and get that stuff out of the way. After all of that, I give it a once over quick wash with a pressure washer, quick, normal sort of hand wash to get it all off, and then after that, wash it down again and basically dry the car off so we can get on with the bodywork. If we have a look down here, we can see there's loads of holograms down the car, which is something we're definitely going to have to fix. The main issue, however, is the bonnet is slightly faded, and that's what we're going to need to do now. So we're going to try and cut it back and see if we can get away with saving it. Half of it's done now, and the left looks amazing. It's near enough like a mirror finish. Of course, it's not going to be perfect because it is a bit of an old car now, and there are still a few little bits that I need to sort out in it, but it does look a lot better. Then if we're looking for a comparison on the right where I haven't touched it at all, you can still see here it's slightly hazed and there's no reflection on it, but here on the left it's like a mirror again. That should be more than good enough. That's one half done. Now I'm going to finish this side and then we can move on to doing all the little bits on the inside of the car. There we go, look at that, it's literally like a mirror. Right then, onto the interior. Right, to give the interior a proper thorough and deep clean, what I need to do is I need to take these seats out because I can give it a good hoover out and then go over it with a vac to try and clean all of the dirt off the carpet. But before we take the interior out to clean it, we need to replace a few of the items on the interior that to me, they look a bit shoddy and they need to be replaced. So let me show you what they are. One of the first things you may notice then is this door seal here is absolutely knackered. So I'm going to be changing this out for a new one because to me, it looks absolutely dreadful. And if someone's coming in this car to look at it, they're going to notice that straight away. There we go, it's not perfect, but it's a lot better. Another thing I need to do then is change the mismatched speakers. So I've done a bit of digging and research, and I found out the car doesn't actually have both speakers from factory, so I've just got a standard grille cover to put back on there, which is what I'm going to swap out. This then is pretty simple, so all I'm going to do is have to pull it off, and it's come straight off, it's that simple. As you can see, this here is missing as well. Of course, the air vent down here is also missing, so all I need to do is bolt that straight in. So the first thing I'm going to make sure that I do before I remove the seats in this car is disconnect the battery, because they have a lot of electrical connections in these seats as well as airbags. So the last thing that I want to do is set these seats off before I've even begun. Right then, so the seats are out now, and I'm about £2.55 richer, and I've even found a lighter. Not bad at all really. Now let's clean the rest of the filth out and then we can get the vacs out. First of all then, I'll start off by giving the interior a quick hoover to try and pick up the worst of the dirt and all the debris in there. Of course, after I've done this, what I'm doing is I'm basically trying to pick all the dirt up that's stuck through the carpet with a drill and some spray, and that seems to work really well in my opinion. Following this then, once I've got the vacs out, I just go over the carpets a few times and it sucks all the dirt up and basically cleans the worst of it out. So I nearly forgot to mention how much it actually cost me for all of the interior trims that I've basically replaced it in the car, all refitted to it. So I went to a scrapyard and I got everything all in basically for £30, which isn't bad going at all if you ask me, and it really does complete the car, as you'll see. It may seem like a very, very long-winded process trying to hoover up all of the dirt off the carpets, but when I got this car, it was absolutely filthy inside, and the carpets were near enough brown. So in my opinion, I definitely need to do this to make the car look a lot more appealing to a buyer, as well as making it nice and fresh in there, which is, of course, what increases the value more than anything in cars like this. That is pretty much the interior done then, and it's taken me a hell of a long time, but now it looks absolutely immaculate in there. I'm running out of daylight now anyway, so I'm going to have to finish the outside of the car tomorrow, but I've got just enough time to do the boot, which is absolutely awful. Let me show you how bad the boot actually is. The boot then is covered in God knows what. I'm going to have to clean this all up because it looks absolutely dreadful. God knows what happened in the boot, but I think maybe the previous owner worked in construction or something like that, and they just used to chuck everything in the back of there. Anyway, after this, of course, we look down the car and you can see there are loads of holograms on this thing. I'm not quite too sure why, but of course, it's something that we definitely need to fix on this car. Thankfully, though, we do have the whole day ahead of us, of course, because today we've got up nice and early to try and get all of this stuff done. It hasn't rained the night before, and the car, of course, has not changed, so it's nice and clean and we can go straight in with it. It does take quite a bit of time, as I've spent, I'd say around 3 or 4 hours at least trying to get all this stuff sorted out, because I want this car to look absolutely immaculate. After I finished the bodywork on the car, now it's just time for a few little finishing pieces. So in my opinion, I thought it would be a really nice touch to finish the rear calipers in yellow, of course, to match the front brakes and the calipers themselves. I had some yellow paint laying around, so it didn't cost me anything, and I thought, why not? After I've done this, I've touched up all the wheels with a little bit of grey paint, as you can see, and now they look absolutely immaculate, and it makes a big difference overall to the car. After I've done that, it's just time to finish off by touching up all the stone chips on the car. Okay then, so we're finally finished. It's been a really long couple of days, but the results now are absolutely amazing. This car looks completely different to when I got it. Anyway, let me show you the car and what it looks like now. You wouldn't think it's the same car. This thing cleans up so well, it's unbelievable. Here we have it then, and now it looks absolutely amazing. All of the little touches have really paid off. And now I'm going to put this car up for sale at $5,950, and I'm going to see what I can get for it, but bearing in mind this car only owes us just over £3,000. To me then, this is an amazing car, and someone is going to be over the moon when they get this. I really like this car, and I love an S3, and to me this is a really clean example now. One of the only few things that probably would make this car a better example is if it had a few less owners on it and it was low mileage. But for what it is and the mileage it's on now, you probably wouldn't think it at all, to be honest. And the best thing, it's had loads of paperwork with it. It's got, you know, the clutch and flywheel on it, they've been done. It's had a cam belt on it. I've just given it a full service, as you've seen as well. So, I mean, someone's going to be overjoyed with this car, and I'm going to be really happy with them too, to be honest. But yeah, even though this cost us just over 3, I think for just under 6 grand, someone is going to get himself an absolute bargain with this car. Bearing in mind it's got a full service history, and it's got 12 months MOT on it. I mean, just look at it. In the end, I actually ended up selling this car for £5,750, less than a week after I advertised it. It was sold basically to someone else who was also a mechanic, and if a mechanic's going to buy a car off you, then there must be something good about it, in my opinion. Anyway, they were more than happy with the car, and of course, I haven't heard anything back from them yet in the past few months, so it must still be going strong. And you know what? I'm glad they're happy with it. So then, after we've accounted for everything on this car, we've made just over £2,000 in profit, and I had this car for less than 14 days, so a nice quick turnover. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video, and just want to say thank you very much for watching. Of course, if you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to tap down below and hit subscribe, and I'll see you next time.